Family Counseling Guide, Highlights of Family Problems and How the Counselor Deals with Them. Section 1. Introduction. The marital relationship is a sacred relationship in which each party is committed to fulfilling his duties and is keen on the stability and continuity of the relationship. In addition, it is the starting point for the formation of a loving, safe and stable family, and its members enjoy sound mental health. Within this framework, the familiar and widespread marital problems in society were identified based on extrapolating some previous studies and relevant reports, in addition to the responses of family counseling workers on questionnaires submitted to them. As a result, some problems were monitored, including the authors of this guide have addressed each issue by explaining and clarifying its manifestations, causes, and how the family guide deals with it. Exposure to violence and abuse from a spouse. This problem is the infliction of psychological, physical, or sexual harm to the wife. Some of the signs of this are: the wife suffers from depression and anxiety, fits of anger, violence directed towards children, her separation from her husband many times, and her desire to divorce, providing justifications for the effects of beatings and bruises, and the children suffer from psychological problems that are a reflection of the issues between the parents. The causes of the problem include what concerns the husband, including what interests the wife. The reasons related to the husband include his lack of love and self-acceptance, suffering from internal anger that directs him towards others, the search for a sense of value and authority, his low view of women, and his lack of proper understanding of the meaning of guardianship, suffering from mental disorders, or addiction. The reasons related to the wife include her lack of knowledge of her rights and duties, the basics of married life, her wrong understanding of the provisions of religion, continuing to marry and have children based on her belief in her ability to change her husband, marital incompatibility and parity, as well as her exposure to violence may satisfy her psychological need and be the reason for the continuation of the problem. The mentor should realize that the problem is the result of the interaction of many factors. Study all its dimensions, get acquainted with the character, features, and socio-economic conditions of the spouses. Be patient, intelligent, empathetic, avoid arguments, have skills creating a professional relationship, good listening, observation, providing psychological support, solving problems. In the case of a husband's addiction or suffering from a mental illness, the priority is to provide safety and protection for the wife and children and make the wife aware of her legal and legitimate rights and institutions giving assistance. She is instructed to stay away from what irritates her husband. She causes disagreements, listens to the husband, pays attention to him, respects him and does not criticize him constantly, expresses his love and apologies when wrong, overcomes his shortcomings and minor mistakes, and withdraws from the place when the husband becomes angry. Suppose the spouse is a help seeker with whom a professional relationship is formed. In that case, it is agreed to stop violence and refer him to a psychiatrist or a sanatorium for addiction treatment when needed. Instruct him to take responsibility for his feelings and behaviors, observe his beliefs and situations that provoke anger, provide him with anger control skills and express it healthily. Husband's stinginess and lack of spending on the family. The problem is that the husband refrains from spending on his wife, his children, and those who have to pay significantly for those outside the family, with his ability to spend. One of the manifestations of this problem is frugality in spending on the needs of the house, depriving the wife and children of entertainment and the purchase of new clothes, and depriving them of expenses, avoiding doing hospitality or holding events, exaggerating the question about the cost of the bill, and procrastination in buying the needs of the house. Among the causes of the problem are a lack of confidence in the compensation of Allah, lack of faith, as well as excessive pessimism, fear of the future, exposure in childhood to the experience of deprivation, the desire to boast of a lot of money, the difference between the father's generation and the generation of sons, and the justification of stinginess with wisdom and diligence. The failure to solve the husband's stinginess problem entails many disagreements between family members, and the children feel deprived and hated by their father. The wife may divorce her husband, or family members rush to theft, dishonorable work, or mingle with bad companies motivated to get money. The guide should follow Islamic ethics and dialogue and guidance, belief in the existence of a solution to every problem, provide support and make it easier for the wife that her problem is lighter than other problems, and direct her not to compare her life to a wife with her life at her father's house or with the lives of others. Explain to her the difference between she provides printed, audio, or visual materials to the husband about the virtue of spending and complaining about stinginess. The wife suffering from the emotional coldness of the husband. The problem is the lack of emotional satisfaction for the wife, and the husband is characterized by coarseness in speech and feelings. One of the manifestations of this is, the husband is characterized by seriousness and extended silence, coldness in dealing with, and not expressing his love and feelings for his wife, and his focus is on work and children, and he often stays out of the house, and he practices intimacy at intervals. The causes of the problem may be due to the husband's personality traits, his exposure to family stress, work stress, psychological or health issues, as well as routine and boredom in married life, the wife's failure to fulfill her duties to the husband and her lack of attention to herself. The husband has extramarital affairs, sexual incompatibility between the spouses and their unequal cultural and social level. The mentor should realize that expectations and perceptions about love and marriage are the basis of this problem, and he should get acquainted with the age of the spouses, their cultural, educational, and social level, the wife's background on the demands of married life, have a cognitive knowledge about the personality and its patterns, educate the wife about the differences between men and women in thinking, mood, and expressing love, clarify the relationship to her problem, and possess a sufficient amount of sexual culture to guide the wife and provide her with skills and ideas to help her solve the problem. Among the most critical practical tips addressed to the wife: accept and take into account gender differences, do not criticize the husband, avoid what causes his aversion and do what pleases him, express his love, appreciation and desire to accompany him and share his interests, while giving him space of freedom, realism and waiting for gratitude and gratitude from the husband. Pay attention to appearance and cleanliness, take the husband's opinion on household affairs, change the boring routine, use beautiful words, fun and humor, and the wife's initiative in doing things that cause her happiness, which encourages family members to participate and pay attention to family moments. The most essential tips for a husband are appreciating his wife's feelings and desires, talking to her about the things he loves, the things that cause him distress, adhering to his responsibility in the marital relationship, being kind and tolerant, participating in his wife's decision-making and respecting her opinions, separating the pressures of his work from his family life, expressing his feelings, and pathological suspicion and distrust of the wife. The problem consists of pathological doubts that include negative behaviors and thoughts against the wife that result from false beliefs that the husband believes in without evidence of their validity, signs of which have the husband's constant investigation of his wife, his search for her personal belongings and his use of means to record her conversations, distrust of the wife's words and actions and mistrust in her, the husband's nervousness, his belief in false ideas for which there is no evidence, and the marital relationship is exposed to emotional dryness, and the problem may reach a divorce. The most important causes of the problem are that the husband has experienced painful experiences in childhood, suffers from schizophrenia disorder, or has previously been subjected to a betrayal that made him distrust others, as well as being influenced by what is shown in the media from news or series that generated doubts in his wife. The guide must collect adequate information about the couple regarding the number of years of marriage, whether it was about love or tradition, the time of the onset of pathological doubts in the husband, and the guide makes sure that they are pathological doubts and are not caused by actual situations that the wife has done and raised the husband's suspicions, enjoys and empathizes with the guide, feels safe and confident, inquires about the presence of other pathological symptoms, deals with the problem using cognitive theory, explains to the direction the mental model, explains to him that his behaviors are caused by his negative thoughts and assigns him the duty of a schedule of automatic thoughts. He reviews it with him at the next session, discusses the evidence of each idea and then replaces it with realistic views. The mentor also teaches him self-confidence through self-love and acceptance, directing him to exercise as a behavioral skill. One of the most essential tips for a wife is her diligence to contribute a significant role in dealing with her husband's doubts by fulfilling his wishes and taking his permission before going out, staying away from what raises his doubts and clarifying what he wants to know. She initiates talking about the details of her exit without asking her, and commits to clarity and frankness with him so that she gains his trust, treats him well, talks to him and makes him express what is inside. Husband's substance abuse. The problem of abuse differs from the problem of addiction, where addiction means intoxication with a narcotic substance with a physical and psychological dependence, and a compulsive need to increase the dose. Its harms are not limited to the individual, but extend to society. Still, abuse means using a psychoactive substance with less desire to increase the dose or get it continuously. Its harms are limited to the user. One of the manifestations of this problem is characterized by the husband's tension and nervousness, his emotions and feelings disturbed, his lack of responsibility towards his wife and children, his deteriorating economic and health situation, his lack of interest in work or study, he is preoccupied only with how to provide the drug, he may lie, steal or deceive others to get money, he can suffer from sexual weakness. The reasons for abuse are multiple and fall under 5 main factors, the first of which are factors related to the husband's personality, such as his weak personality, lack of self-confidence, his love of exploration, or his belief that narcotic substances increase his sexual ability, the second of which are psychological factors, such as the stresses of life, his feeling of anxiety, hopelessness, and the disturbance of his relationships with others, the third of which are genetic factors, where the son may inherit a genetic predisposition to addiction from his parents, the fourth of which are social factors, such as family and marital problems, his accompanying bad company, and the fifth is economic factors, as wealth may drug abuse, as well as poverty, contribute to the husband feeling unable to provide for the needs of his family. The counselor should have a knowledge of the levels of addiction and types of drugs in terms of the form of each class, its symptoms and harms, as well as knowledge of institutions that provide addiction treatment services. The mentor studies the husband's case and raises his awareness of his role in the family, helps him to psychologically reconcile and change the factors that contributed to his abuse, find a job opportunity, provide a source of income, and facilitate his integration into society by facing his psychological and social pressures. Husband's negligence in the performance of religious duties. The problem is the husband's complacency in fulfilling religious obligations and committing sins. One of the manifestations of this problem is not praying or performing it with the congregation, using narcotic substances, or establishing relationships with women. Among the causes of the problem are the husband's weak religious conscience, his contact with deviant peers, his increased leisure time, his failure to adapt to new changes in his life, and the desire to change his material and social status, which may lead him to complacency in earning harem or living in a different environment and establishing new relationships, and his influence on what is shown in the media and watching porn sites. The guide must have a knowledge background about the rulings of religion, have an understanding of these rulings, stay away from fatwas on faith, and direct the focus to know the religious rulings from scholars so that the guidance consultation does not interfere with the fatwa, as well as he must be careful that his sympathy with the guide facilitates or tightens religious duties. The wife should be interested in the style of her dialogue with her husband, so she plays the role of a teacher and expects the husband to become her student, so this leads to him expressing her advice and trying to bring her husband together with good company, as this has a positive effect on him, and she can do this by communicating and agreeing with them to communicate with her husband, or inviting them to a visit or an occasion that provides an opportunity to form a relationship with her husband. And also the wife has to fulfill her duties towards her husband, and that his leniency in matters of his religion does not affect the way she treats him, enhance the positives in his personality, and continue to she prays to him, sets a good example for him in the performance of her religious duties, and uses indirect methods, such as following religious programs or reading religious books and pamphlets in front of him, or make him deliver them to attend religious lectures or Tarawih prayers. And finally, as the days pass, it is natural that the marital relationship is exposed to challenges and problems. It is clear from the above that most common matrimonial issues have solutions. Separation is the last of these solutions. Both the mentor and the couple should cooperate and work together in facing those challenges. Each of them should have patience and hope, and insist on fixing the imbalance in the marital relationship, and in this to achieve happiness and self-confidence, and create a healthy family atmosphere in which children enjoy their rights and have good role models, and contribute to the stability and cohesion of society.